The stranger at the window. It was late, and Megan was driving home from a long day at work. The road stretched endlessly ahead of her, cutting through dense forest on both sides. She hated driving at night, especially this route, which always felt too quiet, too isolated. The darkness seemed heavier here, the trees crowding in like silent witnesses. As she rounded a bend, her headlights caught something up ahead, a figure standing on the side of the road. A man, tall and thin, wearing a dark jacket. He didn't move as her car approached, just stood there, staring into the woods. Megan's stomach twisted. She slowed down, her instincts screaming at her to keep driving. But then the man turned his head, his pale face illuminated by her headlights. He waved at her, his expression blank. Megan rolled down her window slightly, keeping her doors locked. "Are you okay?" she called out, her voice shaky. The man didn't answer. He just pointed into the woods. Megan frowned. "What's wrong? Do you need help?" Still no response. He just kept pointing, his hands steady, his eyes unblinking. The eerie stillness of it all sent a shiver down her spine. "I'm sorry, I can't help you," she said. Rolling her window back up, she pressed on the gas, her heart racing as her car sped away. In her rearview mirror, the man stood motionless, his arms still outstretched. When Megan got home, she locked all the doors and double-checked the windows, feeling silly for being so paranoid. It was just a weird guy, she told herself, probably drunk or lost. But as she sat on the couch, trying to unwind, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd made a mistake. What if he had really needed help? She tried to distract herself, scrolling through her phone, but her mind kept drifting back to the man on the road. Finally, she sighed and decided to call the non-emergency police line. "There was a man on Route 6, she explained. "He looked strange. I just wanted to make sure he's okay." The dispatcher thanked her and said they'd send someone to check it out. Relieved, Megan hung up and went to bed, convincing herself she'd done her part. But sleep didn't come easily. She tossed and turned, her mind replaying the man's blank stare, the way he'd pointed into the woods. Her room felt colder than usual, the shadows in the corners deeper. At some point, exhaustion won, and she drifted off. She woke to a sound, a faint tap, tap, tap. Her heart leapt into her throat. She lay still, listening. The tapping came again, more deliberate this time. Slowly, she sat up and looked toward her bedroom window. Her curtains were drawn, but she could see the faint outline of something on the other side of the glass. Someone was tapping on her window. Megan's blood ran cold. Her apartment was on the second floor. The tapping stopped, and for a moment, there was silence. Then came the voice, soft, raspy, and muffled through the glass. "Why didn't you help me?" Megan froze, her breath caught in her chest. She didn't dare move, didn't dare make a sound. The voice came again, louder this time. "Why didn't you help me?" Summoning every ounce of courage, Megan grabbed her phone and turned on the flashlight. She shone it toward the window, and what she saw made her scream. The man from the road was crouched on her windowsill, his pale face pressed against the glass, his eyes wide and unblinking. His mouth moved, but no sound came out. Megan stumbled back, her hands shaking as she fumbled to call the police. When they arrived, the man was gone. The officers found no sign of forced entry, no footprints, no ladder, nothing to suggest anyone had been there. They assured her it was probably a bad dream, the result of stress or exhaustion. But Megan knew what she'd seen. The next morning, she tried to go about her day as usual, but the events of the night lingered in her mind. At work, she avoided her coworkers, unable to focus on anything but the man's face. That evening, as she pulled into her driveway, her headlights illuminated something on her front door. She got out of the car, her hands trembling, and approached cautiously. There, scratched into the wood, were the words, "Why didn't you help me?" Panicked, Megan ran inside and locked the door. She called the police again, but they found nothing. No signs of anyone near her home, no evidence of who could have left the message. They told her to stay alert and call if anything else happened. But Megan didn't sleep that night, or the next. Days turned into weeks, and though she tried to move on, she always felt like she was being watched. Sometimes, late at night, she'd hear faint tapping at her windows, no matter which room she was in, and always, just on the edge of hearing, the whisper, "Why didn't you help me?" One night, unable to take it anymore, she decided to leave town. She packed her things, loaded her car, and drove as far as she could. But even then, in the rearview mirror, she saw him, standing by the roadside, his arm outstretched, pointing. Thanks for stepping into the unknown with us. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button, drop a comment with your favorite twist, and don't forget to subscribe, because the best stories always have another chapter waiting. See you in the shadows.